This episode's sponsor is you. Yes, you can support this podcast better than anyone else by either using our Patreon or Discord sponsorship with as little as $2.99 a month. You can support this podcast and have access to exclusive content that only you can hear uncensored. It helps support the podcast by paying for things like hosting, editing, and more. The end of this episode has an exclusive section just for Discord and Patreon subscribers. Thank you for your support. Now I really hope Jimmy, Robs, and Adam don't make a fool of themselves this episode. Let's kick that podcast.
Welcome to the Aquarium Guys podcast.
Jimmy,
yes.
Finally, someone's here to validate the green water living in my tanks. So f*** you.
What?
That's it. Yes,
Just fuck
he
me.
ain't gonna judge me for my green water.
I'm judging him right now for judging your green water.
Well, before we start judging,
judge.
I'm your host, Rob Zolson.
Hey, I'm Jim Colby.
And I'm Adam Elnashar.
Today, we are graced with the person that isn't judging me for my green water. I'm pulling up his business card here because your business cards fly. Like, I got this, how many years ago was this that I got this from you? It's a couple years ago?
It's about 2 that I've been trying to get this thing off the ground.
Love this, by the way. Nice to meet you, Josh Oswald, otherwise known as Reefer Oz. So if we call you Reefer, it's not because you have one lit, although you're welcome to it if you need to.
Oh, well.
You just let me know.
If I knew it was going to be like that in Studio B.
Absolutely.
Yeah, this is like the Snoop Dogg show. You know?
Nice.
Have you ever seen Snoop Dogg when he had Fluffy on?
No.
And anyway, Fluffy, Gabriel Iglesias, got interviewed by Snoop Dogg in the studios, which was way out in this, kind of out in the woods type of place. And he gets there, and Snoop Dogg isn't there, and he finally walks in and stuff. He rolls a blunt about the size of his arm, he said. And so he had his son Frankie along, too. And he goes, "Dad, can I hit it?" He goes, "No." And then he nods his head, yes. You know? When else do you ever get a chance to smoke with Snoop Dogg?
I wouldn't pass it up.
Awesome. Any news
Except
before...
he would smoke you into his stupor.
Wasn't Snoop Dogg supposed to be giving up cannabis?
Oh, that
Yeah,
was...
I doubt that.
No, that was some sort of advertising program.
Oh, that was like a media stunt?
Yeah.
All right, good for him. It got me then. I was in.
My friend Wayne just bought some Snoop Dogg shoes, and he goes, "What do you think of these?" I look at them, and it's kind of like it's white shoes, but it's kind of blurry. And finally, we realized it was smoke on the shoes. I mean, so it's pretty cool once you figure it out. But anyway, yeah, he bought a pair of Snoop Dogg shoes somewhere when he was working out of town. So real cool.
Nice.
Hey, maybe Snoop Dogg would sponsor us.
I'd be in. I think Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson would be the closer one because he's actually into fish pretty hardcore.
Is he really?
He is. He's actually a secret tilapia farmer.
I just heard some tilapia news today. Not to do with anything, but I was talking to somebody that we're going to have on the podcast here very shortly. You've talked to him. I've talked to him. And anyway...
Any spoilers?
Mr. Consolidated Fish.
Oh, goody.
Dan Connor. I talked to him for quite a while today. And anyway, he was telling me that they just did some tests on some...
I'm glad you got him on the podcast for me.
Yeah.
High five. Yeah. Up high.
Anyway, he said he talked to you once, and he said, "Yeah, it doesn't take much convincing." I said, "We don't pay shit." And he goes, "I'll take that."
Excellent.
He goes, "I'll add it to your next bill."
Perfect.
So, but anyway, he was telling me that because he's got some really nice show guppies, which we'll talk about on the next show with him.
Sure.
But anyway, the new the Sri Lanka guppies are being imported in the United States have a tilapia herpes in their intestines, and that's why they're not living. They just got tested positive for that in Florida.
Delightful.
So, some sort of tilapia herpes. So if you're out there dating a tilapia, be careful, people. I don't want anybody to come up with
Dr. Fish has to test for tilapia herpes
I'm assuming he was probably part of the process because he's in that group of people.
Well, I think that's enough to get him back on the show. We've had many episodes with Dr. Fish. You've probably seen those episodes. We have, 7 of them now? And honestly, we just stopped having them because we stopped having questions. We have basic questions that he's answered before. There's only so many times that we're going to ask him to add salt to a tank because we see ick. Yeah. You know, this guy's a professional that does this for a living, and we're going to ask him the weird shit.
Yeah.
So if you got questions, bring them to our Discord, send them out to our email, mark them Dr. Fish if you want. We do compile them, and if we get enough, we'll bring Dr. Fish back on for an 8th episode. So this is definitely a reason that I'd love to get him on the podcast just to talk about tilapia herpes.
Tilapia herpes. Yeah, right. That's what I heard this afternoon. After talking.
Finally get that shit looked on your lip, Jimmy.
I think I'm just going to put a lip ring over that blister.
Ring?
Over the blister.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Good choice. That way it can ooze onto it.
I thought so.
Delightful. Adam, you got any news? I heard about this basement stuff before we were doing warm-up.
No. Nothing yet.
Nothing in your basement?
I'll let you know.
Put the lotion on its skin?
I'm working on some plans, and then I'm designing garage too. Like a 14 by 20 foot garage.
So Adam is in the process of designing his fish room because as life happens, him and his wife bought a house. They had 1 child, they had a 2nd child, they had a 3rd child, they had a 4th child. And finally, now Adam's going to have some time on his hands where he can play, I guess, in a fish room.
Have a fish room for once.
Right.
I'm excited for you, buddy. Dalton, we got you back in the podcast. I'm so excited to see that you have color in your face and can walk again.
It's good to be back.
For those that don't know, this podcast is being recorded on July 9th, just to let you know how far back this is. And we still haven't released the Pygmy Sunfish podcast. He's editing it tonight because he's finally back in health. So you can all get off my tits, for those that are listening live to this, that say, where are you guys at? Well, guess what? Our editor was about dead.
Yeah.
So glad to have you back, buddy.
So is it true, Dalton? Did you have the tilapia herpes, or why were you out for so long, dude?
He is in Florida.
Yeah, if we could go one episode without, talking shit about Florida, or at least calling attention to us down here, that'd be great.
Never.
It was a whole conglomeration of, multiple STDs, and it's a whole thing, but I'm back now.
Well, you are the hanging penis of the planet, so down there in Florida. We appreciate you, though. Yeah, I said hanging, I didn't say standing.
Isn't it still the hanging Chad of the, is that old enough joke now?
Hanging Chad? Was that from the...
I don't know, something about it.
Hanging Chad.
The Bush Gore election.
That's right.
Before we begin, we're going to go to a full interview. I want to know more about Josh, what you do, and more about our topic of the evening, microorganisms in saltwater tanks, and more importantly, plankton.
You got some plankton on you?
But I got a question for you before we begin. So when you got here, because you drove from Duluth all the way to this area, so that was about, 3.5 hours? 3 hours?
Yeah, it's more like 4 with the construction right now. But
construction's bad. So God bless you, right? No, we'll at least validate your parking.
Okay, appreciate it.
For sure. When you went upstairs, you were nice enough to, use my bathroom, of course. And inside, you probably saw the 1-gallon Thunderdome.
Yeah.
In there. So I have a question. I was sitting there one evening, and there's a trail of something that crawled out of this tank. Now, for those that are listening, we talked about it before on the episode where we talked about bathroom fish room. Mm-hmm. I have one tank in my bathroom, and it is a 1-gallon saltwater tank where it's just nothing but, a little starfish, little hermit crabs, little worms, random stuff. Nothing that we put in there, just all hitchhikers from plants and whatnot. Mm-hmm. And we don't feed it. We don't do anything to it. We just leave a light on, and whatever grows. Whatever survives, doesn't survive, don't care. And it's just kind of fun watching a couple crabs wrestle or starfish on there. It's a great ambiance when you're taking a shit.
That's where I've been peeing for the last year, by the way.
Yeah, can you help me?
I just go in there and take a leak. I thought it was just like a pee jar.
That explains the smell.
Well, that explains the starfish on the end of my wiener.
I was going to say that, and the burst of life all of a sudden. Woo! Are you pre-diabetic?
You got to top it off somehow, right?
Yeah.
Was it Rob's the one that pees in jars?
No, he's the one that puts air stones up his butthole.
Hey. All right, this is not about this. So, aquarium. So I'm sitting there and I see a trail of something that crawled out of the tank. So I'm actually concerned of what possibly could have crawled out of there because we haven't added anything ourselves. It's just whatever hitchhikers are there. So is there anything that I need to be concerned about in a random saltwater? Because you're a saltwater expert. So I gotta pick your brain while you're here.
I wouldn't go so far as to call me an expert.
You can be humble, but help me out. What on God's name crawled out of my 1-gallon tank upstairs that I need to be concerned about? Because I know some of that stuff can bite.
I'd say likely there's nothing that you need to be concerned about.
Okay.
And then also, how do you know it wasn't something that crawled in?
That's exactly.
Because of the wet trail. Well,
what if it was something that crawled out of your shitter and was like, I'd rather be living in this saltwater aquarium.
Maybe it was that tapeworm that you've always been talking about.
Because it wasn't brown.
No, so there are all kinds of like intertidal snails. Probably would be like one of the bigger culprits that could possibly
leave.
It was a very thin trail, like
like a snail trail.
Yeah, like a thin snail trail.
Yeah.
All right, I get you. Maybe. I see what's good.
Or
was it in your underwear?
Bristleworms maybe could work their way out if they were so
God,
inclined.
Please no. That would be cool if there was a bristleworm in there.
There's a lot of bristleworms in there.
I saw a few in there while I was taking a piss. Yeah, no, it's a sweet little tank. I love that. Actually.
You might want to keep the lid on because if that bristleworm. I've seen some little ones that come out and they're this big and they grab hold of you, pull your ass back in there and eat you.
So, have you ever had such an entertaining shit in the last 90 days? Admit it.
I didn't get a chance to take a shit yet, but I am excited for my morning poo.
Excellent. Because you are staying overnight.
I am. Yes. Rob's is such a gracious, not only podcast host, but a gracious host in his home as well. I got to spend some good time with his wife and his daughter just before the show and meet his parents. He's a real family man.
And then we get to go out for drinks after this.
Cool.
Are you ready?
Drinks.
Yeah. We don't even have to go out.
We got to pop the tequila bottle, Jimmy.
I think I got one of those.
All right.
So let's get down to the topic. Adam, do you have anything to add before we begin the interview here?
No, I'm waiting to listen.
All right, let's roll. First of all, what got you in the aquarium hobby, sir?
I guess it would have to be when I was a youngling and my folks had one of them big old coffee table Jacques Cousteau books, just all these seascapes and all the shit he was doing.
No one got me the books. I only had the videos.
Oh, no, this was like big, full gloss. I mean, as good a resolution as they could print in, the 80s or whatever.
I want some of those.
Super, super rad. And I wore out the binding on that book. Like, I grew up in Minnesota. We're 2,000 miles from the ocean, so this is the kind of shit I never got to see. We'd catch carp out of the lake and crayfish out of the, creeks and the rivers and shit, but, like, nothing like you would see in these books. Right. And so I was always just super fascinated. We'd go to the zoo, and I'd, always be into the aquatic stuff. But I grew up with cats and dogs. Never had any fish, but it was always something I was really intrigued by. I'd go on vacation, and I'd always try and see, what zoo has an aquarium? Let's go there for the day. Or where's the big national aquarium here? So I check out all the national aquariums, and it was always something kind of really intriguing for me. Never even got into freshwater fish keeping. And then I had some friends up in Duluth that had a saltwater aquarium, and I saw how easy it could be. You always hear, saltwater's so hard, it's so expensive, and man, they just hardly did anything, and it was just a super thriving little environment that did its own thing, much like the 1 gallon up there in the shitter, where
my little war room
if you
tank.
Find the right balance of critters that fit your maintenance schedule, it can be super easy. So I was tank sitting for these guys for a little while, and I realized how easy it was. Then not too long after that, somebody gave me a free 75-gallon aquarium, a free tank. You're like, oh yeah, great, I'm halfway there. Well, and then you realize everything else that you need. So I started accumulating equipment.
And this was as an adult?
Yeah, this was as an adult.
Excellent.
And so I spent a couple of years getting gear together, and I set up my first saltwater aquarium about almost 5 years ago now. So I'm relatively new in the craft myself, but I've gained an extreme wealth of knowledge in my pursuit in really trying to figure out what makes these systems be able to operate on, a very base level.
Sure.
And so that's where I discovered the benefits of marine plankton on so many aspects of these marine systems that we keep. And I started growing my own, if you will. And soon everybody's like, hey, you got a little extra? And I'm like, oh, sure, yeah. And then it's like, well, maybe there's a business here. So I'm trying to get a little business built out of it, but I still I love being able to contribute to the reef keeping community in the greater Minnesota and Midwest region. And so coming here and being able to share a little bit of knowledge, if I can, is going to be a good thing, I think.
So that's what you call this business, the Reef Lab, and titled yourself as a plankton farmer. So I'm extremely interested. I tried to do some saltwater stuff as of recently for a project, and got into doing some of the phytoplankton myself for farming, and I think I did it every wrong way possible. So first of all, go through for listeners that are mainly freshwater, of course, a lot of our listeners, describe what the phytoplankton is, and how it is part of the cycle, and then how we can cultivate it.
And why do you need it?
Yeah, we can talk about all kinds of cool stuff around phytoplankton and zooplankton and all the things that really build up a food web in our aquarium. And I think that that's one of the biggest components that maybe like differentiates some of the saltwater systems from freshwater. And I don't have a whole lot of freshwater knowledge, so I don't know really. Like, I know that there's green water that can be cultivated for use in freshwater systems, but I think it goes a little deeper than even that in the marine systems, where the phytoplankton is the base of the marine food web. These are autotrophic microorganisms that are turning elements and sunlight into all the stuff of life, carbohydrates and lipids and all the amino acids that build up the proteins and everything. This is like the base of the food chain in the marine ecosystem.
So in the freshwater hobby, we immediately see green water and be like, oh, where'd I f*** up? Why is it so important in saltwater?
So the biggest...
I mean, that's... Jimmy's laughing, but
Yeah.
that's exactly how we treat it. Like, oh, shit.
Well, no, so correct me if I'm wrong. Don't people like purposely culture green water to feed, you know, like Daphnia or
something?
Like
but
some,
for the most
but-
part, that's a rather niche thing for us advanced aquarists. For most part, if you get green water, it's because they put, 2 goldfish in a 20-gallon with no
Right,
filtration and left it in the sun. That type of shit.
Leave light on for 24 hours.
Exactly.
That's what I do.
You leave the light on for all week long. Let's see what happens.
Put it on a timer. Come on.
Let's roll the dice.
We've come too far to leave lights on.
Yeah, 23 hours on, 1 hour off.
That's how it goes, baby.
That's what explains why all my fish look like they're kind of stoners. Like, oh,
No, so the main purpose of using phytoplankton in saltwater aquariums is to help promote a diverse diet for all of the different suspension and filter feeders in there, as well as the other like secondary producers that eat the phytoplankton that end up becoming food for higher levels of organisms within the captive system. Now, there's no such thing as a self-sustaining saltwater aquarium on a high level. Sure, you can set something up that's pretty lo-fi, but it's going to have some level of maintenance somewhere.
Well, even my little tank in the shitter room there, I still got to top off water. I still got to clean out the cartridge.
Yep.
That's literally the only 2 things I do.
I've been topping it off for the last year. I don't understand why you have to.
See,
That's yellow water.
That's my
not green
maintenance.
water. Yeah.
That's my phytoplankton going in.
What it's doing is feeding the rest of the biodiversity within that marine environment. And we've come to learn in a very short time that people have been keeping these captive marine systems, that one of the biggest components of success is having a high level of biodiversity. And if you think about the ocean, there's just life in every millimeter or milliliter of fluid, every cubic centimeter of substrate, rock, everything is just crawling with bacteria and microbes of some sort, and those secondary level of microbes are feeding on this phytoplankton. Using it in your marine systems gives a good food source for a lot of different organisms that are in the system.
So this podcast caters to advanced aquarists and beginners. So for those that don't know and are listening online, they're thinking of trying to saltwater for the first time, and they're trying to think to themselves from a freshwater perspective. They are used to having some plants, and then they're used to having tanks with no plants and just fish. Saltwater gives the extra layers of the different macroalgae, the different corals, the different creatures that they just do not have in fresh water. So when we think of food, what are these things feeding? Well, what are you directly feeding by dosing something like a plankton into your aquarium?
So starting at
or making sure that there's plankton there to begin with.
Yeah, so at the base level, you're looking at some of the interstitial like meiofauna that's in there. These are all the little critters that live in the sand, on the glass, and we're talking like copepods and isopods and amphipods and some of these microcrustaceans. Those are going to be some of the smallest things that are going to be consuming this. You might have some different protists and ciliates and other type of microorganisms that are secondary producers essentially within the system that are going to predate on the phytoplankton as well. But really the main benefit comes to these microcrustaceans, which are then food sources for coral, for fish. They're part of the microbial cleanup crew.
So when you say microcrustaceans, is there something specific?
Yeah, copepods, isopods, amphipods, and these are all different
triple pods.
These are all different like orders of crustaceans. So they all serve like kind of a different level of that microbial biome that's in the substrate and on the glass and in the water column. Some of these are, once they hatch, they're just in the water column call them, and they're fish food or coral food.
So this is something that you would get with live rock. So if you had just like a bare tank, not that it happens often. I mean, come on, what type of tanks do you see with people with saltwater with their bare tank? But let's say, for the conversation's sake, that you had a bare tank with clownfish in it, with essentially no live rock, just plain decorations. This wouldn't necessarily be something for that because you don't have a ton of those microcrustaceans introduced, and you don't really have a ton of that cycle. So you wouldn't be wanting to introduce saltwater's green water, the phytoplankton, into the system like that. You do that for a living system where you'd have the live rock that brings that whole bioculture to the tank.
Well, I mean, and I guess I don't know like what the freshwater crossover is. In just about every system I can think of, you need some level of biological filtration. That's going to have surface area of some sort to develop. Sure. So in a marine system, the only time that you're not going to have something, whether it's even just a synthetic biomedia like ceramic rings, balls, bioblocks, that kind of stuff is used in marine systems also. But any of that is ultimately going to become a breeding ground for these microcrustaceans. You cannot avoid getting them in your system. So when you add a fish, there's a very likely chance that even the water that's in its slime coat, on it, in its gut, it could have eaten one that's passed through its gut system.
Could it get it from the salt itself?
Not from like the salt mix, but like if there was even just a little bit of the shipping water or anything, or from another tank. Oh, absolutely. Like I've never seen a marine system that does not have visible copepods. If you look hard enough in the right spots at the right time, you'll see them. It's impossible. They're like, it feels like they're in the air. They just appear. Like everybody I know that started a tank with bacteria in a bottle, totally clean substrate, dry rock, ends up with copepods after they add their first life form, whether it's a snail, a fish, a chunk of coral.
They're just in it.
They are there. Yeah, you're not going to be able to avoid it.
Yeah, in the freshwater habitat, like you do the flower horn, and flower horns, you for the most part, you can have them in a planted tank, but the rule of thumb is you keep them with nothing. Completely a glass tank, nothing in the bottom, no substrate, nothing. All you have is the media in your filter to hold the cycle. It's just nitrifying bacteria. Right. There's literally nothing in the tank. So there is cases in freshwater where there's no life cycle, there's no natural system, and we just have to make sure that our nitrification cycle, our bacteria in our filter is going to hold that. Saltwater, you're saying that even if you wanted to imitate that, good luck. There's always going to be a case where you're going to want at least some version of a plankton to benefit those microcrustaceans. Because we're going to get questions on this. That's why 100%.
So, I mean, could you get some of this stuff from, let's say you put in frozen brine shrimp to feed your animals. Could the frozen brine shrimp have something in their gut?
Likely not. I mean, I feel like the freezing process would kill any eggs, or there wouldn't be any like live.
But on the fish, on the snails, once you add stuff, again, yet to see it. And I gotta say, I've yet to see it as well, honestly. So
if you have, a very new system, if you are running a quarantine tank that just has PVC structure in it because you're medicating or what have you, there's definitely instances where you're not going to see a ton of the benefit of adding the plankton as a food source. Now, one of the other benefits of phytoplankton addition, if you use it when it's live, is it will actually help with nutrient uptake and sequestration, and then your skimmer is going to take some of it out, your mechanical filtration will take some of that out. If you use it in a live state, it helps with some nutrient balancing within the systems as well. So with proper dosing, even a relatively new system, a bare bottom system, a system that doesn't have a ton of different microbial life that's going to be feeding on it, or even some of the other higher life forms that would feed on phytoplankton, you're going to dose very sparingly.
Sure.
But eventually you're going to have a pretty good population of these copepods and all of these other microbes. Like, life finds a way in these marine systems. It's ridiculous.
So this is the base food to start your full-on cycle of life in your saltwater tank. Now, when we brought up Daphne and green water. There's going to be a lot of comparisons for these freshwater people, because the whole goal of this is I'm trying to get this basic concept for a saltwater person to a freshwater listener right now to try this for the first time. That's my goal. If you're listening to this, you haven't tried salt, you're scared of it, seems intimidating. All the saltwater people are intimidating. That's the first thing you mentioned, that it was even intimidating for you when you started. Let's not make this so intimidating. So when you take this base concept of bringing the plankton in, I'm going to compare it to the Daphnia subject in green water. If Jimmy and we want to do a Daphnia culture, we literally tell people, get a tank ready with green water. Okay, how do I do that? Simple. Grab some food or a nasty dead fish, grab a vessel of water, maybe in a Rubbermaid tote or a tank, and then light the bitch up with a light. light. If you can get a fluorescent light, a shop light, and leave that on for a few days, you're going to have delicious soup. And once you get that nice, near thick green water, then we'll give you Daphnia culture and put it in there with a bubbler, and suddenly you'll have thick Daphnia that you can scoop out with a net and feed your fish. It's that simple. So is there a process like this that you can do with plankton? Is there a way that you could create it, or do you have to have a small sample starter of it to get it growing? So let's start there.
Yes, you hit it with the ladder there. Unlike freshwater microalgae, I mean, there's aerosols of that in the water vapor.
I'm breathing it right now. It feels
absolutely. Like. Oh yeah, absolutely. If you leave
Jimmy's laughing.
Yeah, you leave a bucket out on your deck, like happens every year around our garden. Like we have the watering can just sits there for 2 weeks, and all of a sudden you got green water in the watering can.
And lots of mosquitoes.
Oh yeah. The dragonflies love them though. There's not that type of equivalent in marine phytoplankton because there's just not that bioavailability in the air. The critters that might land in the pond and then land in your water bucket.
I can't take reverse osmosis water I bought from the grocery store, put it under a light, and make something happen. I can't turn water into wine.
Not in a marine sense. As you mentioned, you have to start with an inoculant of some sort, a starter culture. And you can get them all over the place online. You can get them from me. You can get them...
You can go to thereeflab.net and get them right directly from you.
Oh, if only. I don't have e-commerce set up.
No?
I'm slow rolling getting this thing going.
Excuse me. You have an email on the website and your telephone number, so that's good enough.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Oh, yeah, you can get a hold of me. Hit me up. I'll get you set up. But yeah, you need an inoculant. You need to get the culture started with something. But once you have some and you get the system down and you get it bubbling, like it's a self-replicating...
Self-sustaining?
It is. I mean, it takes obviously some of... You got to feed it something. It needs light. There are some, resource costs to it, but the cost benefit, if it's something that you really want to use in your system, and I'll admit it's not for every system. There's definitely some that benefit from it much more than others, and some that definitely need it. Like there are some marine organisms that without regular frequent phytoplankton additions, they're just not going to live.
There's a couple different ways at least 2 ways that I know of getting this stuff. I can go to my local pet store, go to someone that sells it, right? I can get a container of it, and that would be the stuff that I can dose in small amounts. And there's generally some sort of measuring guide that either you told me or on the package that says that at least some vague instructions on dosing it, but I want to make more. So I can either continue to buy that from the source that I got it from, which it could be affordable. It could be something that I could get to. In my area, I'm lucky enough I'm 20 minutes from a fish store, or I can have someone ship it in, but maybe I don't have that convenience and I want to grow it. You said I need light and I need food. Explain, light I think is pretty self-explanatory. There's nothing special I have to have for like a spectrum, is there?
Not necessarily. Look, these are some of the most ancient and base organisms on the planet. Like we wouldn't even have oxygen. I mean, I guess cyanobacteria is
so
good
as long
to blame
as
for
not
that.
UV light. We're pretty kosher.
Right. Yep. So they'll grow under anything. Like most photosynthetic organisms, depending upon the pigments in them, they will prefer a different spectrum. But if you just get a 5 to 10K Kelvin light of any sort, it will grow.
Perfect.
Yeah.
And then what food would one feed these things?
There really hasn't been a whole lot of advancements in the algal fertilizer that's out there. So in the 1960s somewhere, I think, this guy produced this formulation working for food fish aquaculture. So that's where all of this came from, food fish aquaculture. Once they started cracking the code on, we need these different sized organisms to feed these larval fish, and then that's how we can farm fish. So all of this research came from food fish aquaculture. And these botanists discovered a formulation of all the right minerals and things that the phytoplankton needs, and they produced that as an F2 formulation. You can find recipes, but I don't know if some of the constituents are tough to get if you don't have access to lab-grade materials.
Sure.
But there's a ton of different...
I probably know a guy.
You know a guy.
It sounds like Adam knows a guy for just about anything.
He does. That's one of my first.
But no, there's a lot of people that produce and sell F2 fertilizers. I get a 2-part product from Pentair that works great for my purposes. Fritz Aquatics does one. Just about anybody out there that's dealing with marine phytoplankton sells an F2 fertilizer. I get a lot of base stock and fertilizer from Algal Research Supply. Florida Aquaculture Research is also another place. It's readily available online. And then every product's slightly different. They all base their sell based off of this F2 formulation, but they might have slightly different dosages. So look at the product you're using, just about any kind of product, but it's a liquid fertilizer that you end up dosing by the volume of water that you're adding to the culture that you're
Just a generic liquid fertilizer.
I'm just happy that this didn't go, like where he's out in the woods with fertilizer making bombs type of thing. That's what I kind of expected where it was going.
Now, when I've heard this and I had talked to some of the people that just got into salt, they're like, oh, I just used some Miracle Grow in there. They literally just grabbed liquid Miracle Grow, put it in, and sure enough, it popped and made more phytoplankton. Now, I'm not exactly a proponent of that because I don't know what the hell else is in there. Still, it worked. But is there any particular brand or over-the-counter product that you would recommend that can work for someone that's listening that doesn't have access to something complex?
I guess I don't know of anything that I would recommend. Granted, you could grow it with just about anything. I mean, I think if you could come up with some type of fertilizer tea, that would be suitable for almost any plant, sure, give it a go. But
so if someone were to
why try and reinvent the wheel? I mean, someone figured out the right recipe. It's hella cheap too. Like order it online. It's insanely cheap as far as like the consumable. And you use such a small amount of it, like it lasts forever. Like if you're just doing this on a small scale, like they sell the stuff in like 8-ounce bottles because you don't go through it, So you don't need, if you're doing this on a small scale, don't get a 32-ounce bottle of F2 fertilizer.
And one more time for the spelling of the name so I can put it in the chat live to our Discord audience.
It's Gillard's F2 fertilizer. So GUILLARD F/2 is going to be how you're going to find it. So a ton of people produce this formulation. And again, like you can find the recipe for it. And if you've got access to the components, go ahead and make it or give it a shot.
Just to give you guys an idea for listening audience, because I did pull it up. I did add the link as well into Discord. If you guys want to listen to these podcasts live, we do have it in Discord. The link is in the description. But the Amazon listing for this particular Gillard's F2 formula for the 16-ounce bottle is $25, and that'll last literally forever.
A lifetime, maybe 2.
They have an 8-ounce for $16.95, so half of that, $2 an ounce ish.
Yeah, it's definitely relatively affordable, and for the product I use, it's a dosage of 0.15 milliliters per liter. So it's like next to nothing.
So you're literally putting a drop in whatever container you're using.
Oh yeah.
Is this thing used for anything else other than that? I mean, is this being used for like regular plants?
Well, this is the new Viagra, Jimmy.
I'm asking for myself, Robbie. No, I'm asking for a friend.
You're asking for a friend.
Asking for a friend.
But I mean, is that used for anything else? Is that used for growing corals or any? I mean, what is it used? I mean, what are they selling it for? It just sounds like you guys are blowing up bombs.
Literally, it's listing on Amazon. Not to cut you off, it's literally for a phytoplankton culture. Algae culture's powerful solution. It's literally made just for this.
Yeah. It's a very specific formulation. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. I haven't found any recipe for anything, and I also haven't really dug a whole lot to see if there's another option. Or that's a good question, Jim. Is this used for something else other than
aquatic
marine plankton?
I
really don't know.
I hate the fact that every time that we bring up a medication on this podcast, somebody has to go, it's like, well, I could use that as shampoo.
No, that will cure COVID, I'm pretty sure.
Dan still uses Mellifix in his goddamn hair.
It might even cure, that tilapia herpes thing.
Right.
That Dalton had.
Last week. Dalton had.
Ordering now.
Poor Dalton.
He'll edit all this out.
All right, so we have light, we have water. Just put it in a container and watch it go green, and then just keep adding water and just dip into it as I need?
Well, it is a marine organism, not just water. Like, you need salt water. And
clearly.
More specifically,
I'm assuming the same saltwater mix is in your aquarium because that's where you're going to be adding it?
Well, that works to a point, but you're going to get your best production out of just about any of these phytoplankton And then if we start talking about the zooplankton too, at a reduced salinity, because they do a lot of their cyclical blooming in the ocean when there's a big spring runoff somewhere.
Oh, almost brackish, I like.
Yes.
All right.
Yes. So that's where you get plankton blooms in the ocean, and then that's when the copepods come out for a fest, you know, like they're like, all right, we're going up to the beach to get it on, you know. So
Jimmy's thoroughly entertained.
I'm just thinking of this big orgy.
It's just gross. Copepods laying out, getting it going,
rubbing on each other.
Oh, it's worse than that dolphin audio clip I heard earlier.
All right, so a little less salt than normal for sure.
Yep. So you're looking at 1.02 specific gravity.
Sure.
You know, somewhere in there is going to be prime for any of these. You get your salt water mixed up, and you get it in a container with some aeration. That's really all that you need. You don't need any heat for the most part. These will survive and breed and thrive and produce in between 60 and 80 degrees. You get over 80 degrees, and you're going to start seeing diminishing returns in their production and everything. You get a little colder, and they're going to be kind of a little more sluggish and not really producing quite as much. So usually your lights and the aeration from the bubbler keep it right in that 70 degree sweet spot, just about anywhere you're at.
Kind of room temperature.
Yeah. Yep. So you don't need to worry about heat. And then
now, do I need to aerate this?
Yes. There definitely needs to be vigorous circulation, and air seems to work the best. It's just so lo-fi.
Now, do I just keep like a nice steady stream, or do I want to froth this like a beer?
You want to push it as hard as you can before it's like foaming at the top. You don't want to be making a skimmer in your container.
Okay, so no skimming, but
you want it
I want to churn that bitch as much as up to that point.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Like crank it as much as you can, and
pull its hair
a circular container is going to work best to help keep any of that.
So the whole idea
motion
is to keep it moving.
Oh yeah, yep.
It's not necessarily to oxygenate. That's just a second byproduct. It's to make sure that this is churning.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, you still definitely need the benefit of the gas exchange, because you have to do these in
but I don't need to churn it for gas
sealed
exchange.
Environments. Right. Yeah. Correct. I should have brought it in. I have a couple of lo-fi containers that I use that would maybe help as visual aids.
Well, what containers would you recommend someone put this in?
My ex-wife's drink.
There you go. No, don't drink it.
That's too cold.
Now,
Ice Queen.
When I did this, because again, I had a saltwater tank set up, and we'll talk about it in the podcast another time, but I set up a tank for over a year that was super low maintenance, and again, I wanted to have that ecosystem. So I got the phytoplankton culture. I decided I wanted to get a vessel, and I saw somehow other people were doing it, and they were doing it with like weird plastic pitchers. They had some weird Rubbermaid totes. Everybody had some sort of weird different method of doing it. So I got creative, and I went to my wife and said, hey, do we have like an old school lemonade container? And she had like this, couple gallon lemonade container with a spout, where you actually have like a little tea spout at the end that you'd bring to like an old time country lemonade picnic.
One of my parties.
Yeah, one of your parties where you'd assume there was booze in it.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
You don't have to assume.
There's absolutely booze in it. So I got one of those glass containers. And it had a metal lid, right, like a mason jar lid for a 2-gallon container. Yeah. I put the stuff in there, and then I drilled a hole for the airline, churned it up, and then I wrapped it in LED lights.
And made a smoothie.
I made a smoothie. Put my little bit of fertilizer in it. Well, I put my phytoplankton, fill it up with salt water in there, and then just let it churn. And sure enough, it got real green dark. And then I just used the spigot in the bottom to put the dosing whatever I wanted to in a little cup, pour it in the tank, and then whatever I took in my idea. Because again, I did it with no help, no research like you doing this, and I just scooped water from the tank. Like, okay, I dosed that much. I'm just going to put water from the tank back in the jar and keep replacing it. And I got growth. I don't know what good growth was like, but it was enough where I could deal with the shit I needed to do. So.
And
I probably had copepods in my...
Oh, there you go. That's what I was just going to say. Yeah,
I had copepods in my growth.
That's what happens then, is then if you use the tank water, you're adding the shit that's going to be eating it right in there. You might even be adding other things that would be competing for the fertilizer solution.
Well, it makes sense because after a year of doing this, the jar stunk so bad.
Was it still semi-green though? Too?
Oh, 100% green.
Okay, so it was still.
It was working, but it was definitely. You could definitely tell there was some more in it.
Things going on.
I could definitely tell that I probably should have cleaned the jar out in a year's time,
or not peed in it.
Yeah. In fact, Jimmy, Can you move that curtain? It might be sitting right there.
I don't
know
wanna
if I
see
threw
this.
that jar away. Just move that curtain right there. Let's see.
Ignore the man behind the curtain.
Nope, the jar's gone. But it was right there in the corner. I had the jar sitting right there as a spigot, and I would just, feed right off that darn jar.
I came over.
Oh, that's perfect.
I thought Rob finally turned cool and bought himself a lava lamp, but did not buy a lava lamp. He's made his own green one over here. Stunk like ass. What's that smell? It's alfalfa coming out of a horse's butt.
It
what.
was fine until the end. The end got stunk. It was literally
Sounds like my first marriage.
like 9 months. It was great.
Well,
saying?
there are some phytoplankton and microalgae that just stinks when it's culturing too. Like just smells like a back bay on a hot day. But that's just the aroma from
The trauma.
the thing itself.
The aroma from the trauma.
I don't know. I feel like people should dump those out and reculture after a year. But
Yeah,
doing
well-
it my method for sure.
Yeah, and that's one thing. If you're really looking to try and gain some success, there has to be some level of sanitization at some point.
Start over points.
Yeah, like you want to clean your container because you're going to get, no matter what, you're going to be getting some type of biofilm growing in there as well. That's going to be competing and or actually contaminating the culture and causing the phytoplankton to die. So there's
think of it-
periodic sanitation that you're going to want to do.
Come to think of it, I took my original saltwater was out of the aquarium. I didn't mix fresh salt water
where
for
you
it
started.
either. That's where I started with whatever that was in the
Cheap
tank.
ass.
I did.
Yeah.
It's funny that you said about you kind of got to reboot, basically. So watching Aquarium Co-op, when they went and visited that guy in Israel breeding all the guppies, I think it was Israel, they were raising like 1 million guppies a month or something like that. It was just astronomical amount. And they're only at about, I think if I remember, they're like at 2/3 capacity. I mean, they could go farther. When they were showing all their filters and different things and stuff, he says, I can't tell you why. He said, but every 18 months we got to stop, scrub everything down, start fresh. He goes, or else our whole production starts dropping after about 18 months. He says, so we've got the 3 systems and we have to move everything.
And this is for all his
clean.
live foods, just to explain.
Here again, he's saying something that you can't keep something going indefinitely. You got to stop and clean and go. That kind of fits
Yeah,
right
you got to
in with
wipe your
guys.
ass every now and again, Jimmy.
I use the Charmin, that stuff that they use, they show.
Why are you
on the
wiping
TV.
your arm as an example?
That's the new Charmin thing. They take some blue paste, they put on the arm, they take the cheap toilet paper and just kind of smear it, and then they take the Charmin and it cleans right up.
That's a tampon commercial, Jimmy. You're getting that confused.
Listen.
That's where they use the blue colors.
No, we're not talking about tampons today. We're not talking about glass dildos today. Stay on task.
Okay.
I was going to bring a dildo to
I'm kind of disappointed.
drop in the tank.
Kind of disappointed you didn't.
Forgot.
It's an aquarium
Forgot a
dildo.
dildo.
It's an aquarium.
Just
dildo.
do what I do.
It's different.
I just take a dump in it when I leave.
Don't worry.
I can do that.
Don't worry. I can't wait to go to your house. That's
No,
all I'm
I
saying.
know. I can't wait for the scavenger hunt.
Robbie
that, Adam?
still hasn't recovered from that.
Well, recover from what? What, Adam?
When we put the plant in every single one of your tanks, that little tiny piece,
Okay.
and you were so...
All right, little tangent. All right. I just went and did a little cleanup of my my 10 gallon rack, and on the top left highest tank, I have the plant that is so thick in that tank, it literally choked out a fish. I don't know if the fish got stuck or the fish died something else before, just happened to land in the plant. But the plant is so thick and matted through the tank. It also made a layer on top of the tank because there was about, an inch of duckweed, thick of duckweed.
I saw that last time.
And the plant wanted more of the duckweed's light. So the plant outcompeted the duckweed for its own space and made a mat, a thick, like 2-inch mat.
Shit on it.
Thick on top, over top of the duckweed. So it outcompeted duckweed, and then it grew out of the water onto the fish tank edge, and I have this hang on the back side tank where you put like a beta in or whatever, and it crawled onto the hang on the back side tank,
Working its way down.
and now it made a terrestrial mat. And it has these little like fern fronds that come out of it
We're hoping that's all it
and all
is.
kinds of shit that it's sporing out of now.
Could be
and-
little arms shaking
You're
out.
welcome.
Thank you for the plant from hell. That weeping moss that you have is some horse shit. But everybody comes over, they're like, oh, that is so cool. I lifted up the mat that's terrestrial, and underneath, the plant died to make its own dirt, to fertilize itself. To be terrestrial. I can't even explain this. I should take pictures of this shit. It's incredible what it did in my tank.
You're welcome.
So there's your little tangent for the podcast episode.
You're welcome, Robbie.
I gave a chunk of it to another buddy just as to be a dick.
You know what? I wonder if it would grow in saltwater. I bet it would.
I'll try it.
Give some to
I'll give some Nas.
I'll try it.
We'll have some fun. You'll have some. You know what the plant is. You've listened to enough episodes.
If it kills you.
I don't know if I know what it is.
I don't even walk back there because it kind of reaches out for you as you go by. Kind of like Scooby-Doo, where this like reaches out and tries to grab you. I was like, I'm not going back there.
Okay,
Jankies.
I figured by episode 70 you heard it because that's where you said you were at by the time you came to the podcast.
Yeah.
But the plant is a plant that Adam got a while ago, and he's convinced it's super invasive. He freezes it, he dries it out for a year, rehydrates it, it still grows. It's insane. Like he'll give like a little flake of it, and it'll overtake an entire tank.
It lived on I have a counter where I bag all my fish. And anyway, Adam gave me the piece that was about an inch long and in a Ziploc bag. A year later, I find that it had fallen behind. Still green. And on top of it, the Ziploc bag hadn't even leaked. I was so impressed. And I ended up taking that back to Adam and gave it back to him and never opened it.
And I put it in a tank and it just started growing. I literally put it in a 5-gallon and it just started growing.
Yeah, so it lived in a plastic bag for a year and a half behind my bagging station.
I've had it fall out of the tank, dry out, and just sit on the floor for maybe a month, and I'll rehydrate it just fine. It doesn't matter. Yeah. So we looked it up. It's some sort of weeping moss. It's some sort of weird hybrid weeping moss. It's not not illegal, but it's known as the plant of the podcast. So I'll send you home.
See, the whole reason why I got that was because I was told it was illegal and nobody should have it.
I mean,
so that's had to take it.
You kind of feel like it is.
Well, don't send me home with some illegal plant.
Oh no, we checked it out.
Right.
It's fine.
It's DNR approved.
I can't.
Did you actually show it to the DNR?
Yes, I did.
Yeah,
in fact, the DNR listened to the podcast and they wanted a piece of it.
Nice.
And so what's funny is when
Hi, Mandy.
When Robbie gave him the piece, it also had your phone number, address, last 9 of your social security.
They're like, we need to know what this is. No, they did it personally. They didn't do it on an official capacity. They just Aquarius themselves. So it's cool.
Anyway, how did we get on the tank bombing tangent? And
that's how it is. That's how this podcast goes. You just feel the rhythm.
Everybody goes, you go off the rails. We're never really ever on the rails.
Back to the container question. So that my method of a container jar, just what I came up with. But what do you recommend for a jar or a container, a vessel?
That's brilliant, dude. Like your intuition was sound.
Was it?
Oh yeah, solid. You want a round container, like using a 10-gallon tank or a 5-gallon, square vessel.
Sure.
You're just not going to get that really vigorous circulation that you need in the corners. So you're going to get stuff settling out.
I do have a question. Are you familiar with this type of glass, sir?
Yeah.
Oh, you are.
I guess not the type of glass.
Okay, so this is uranium glass.
Oh, okay.
This was made before World War II and actually has real uranium in it. It's radioactive.
So that's the shit that glows in the black light.
Where is my black light?
Get your UV light on that.
So, Jimmy, did I leave it at the hotel? Just to make sure there was no stains?
So Robbie showed me this, and anyway, about the same time he asked about getting a vasectomy. I said, just rub that on it.
Yeah.
Are you kidding?
That thing every night,
I put my nuts in it an hour a night just to make sure they try to go sterile.
It'll work. It works.
And then at Christmas time, he makes a candy dish out of it. And you don't want to use that.
Still doesn't sterilize the candy corn.
Using that, I don't know. I don't know what the.
I had to make the joke.
Yeah.
But any rounded vessel,
gallon pickle jar work.
Absolutely. Yep.
I'm going to tell you a quick secret for people looking. I hatch all my brine shrimp in gallon pickle jars. I hatch angelfish eggs, ram's eggs in those jars. And I'm here to tell you, if you go looking to buy a glass 1-gallon jar right now, if you can find them online, it's like $40 for a case of 4. But then everybody says, well, just go buy a jar of pickles at Walmart for $6. Throw the pickles away. Better yet, go to your local recycling place. And I told those guys, I said, can you save me any of these pickle jars that come in for recycling, those gallons? They said, sure. They called me up 2 weeks later. They had 70.
Right.
And I've never had to buy one since.
Absolutely.
And so if you can, all I did for those guys, it saved all those pickle jars for me. I said, what do you guys want for lunch? I'll bring over a couple pizzas or something. They said, great. And so a couple pizzas will go a long ways.
Absolutely.
So pickle jars work great.
Talk to restaurants, and if you don't have access to a recycling center, if you got a local restaurant or somebody that goes through them jars, yeah, absolutely. And then you can ditch the lid if that's all rusty or stained or whatever, and just a lot of people will put like cellophane over the top of it to put the airline through that, and then you have a covered container, because you want the container to be covered, but you have to be able to diffuse the air from the line that's going in there. So something covered but not super tight, or you have like some type of valve in there.
What I used to do when I was hatching brine shrimp, when I first started hatching brine shrimp, I took one of those stems that were in an undergravel filter, the stem in the middle, the hard little 1/4 inch, and I would just put a foot-long stem in there, and I drill one hole for the air to come out. out. And I tell you, even with that little hole, which was probably an 1/8 inch enough for this to go through, it was like a little geyser. And it was just shoot out brine shrimp. It just didn't work for crap. And so anyway, I finally just started lowering my water level a little bit and just leaving the lid off. But a lot of these restaurants now are going to plastic containers. But you could probably get a plastic container 1 gallon lid to fit on your 1 gallon jar, and at least it wouldn't rust, especially with the salt water.
Yep. Then you could drill it, definitely.
So you mentioned before we get into the questions of different types of plankton, you mentioned before of dosing. And I know that this is going to be hard because if you think about dosing for medication, you think about strength and then you think about the amount, right? Like milligrams. So with this, we have no idea what the strength is. We just look at it and goes, yep, that looks green. Is it dark green? Is it light green? Did Jimmy urinate in it green? We don't really know. Besides that, can you look at a tank and go, how much life needs to feed off of this? But we still have to ask you, how do we dose, man? What do you recommend? Help us.
So to your first point about the concentration of it, if you will, or the strength, as you said, it's Wild West out there. It's not a regulated product, really. No one has to tell you what's in it, what concentration, how much is in it. Everybody kind of has their own standard dosage, depending upon where you're getting the product from.
So read the label, is what you're saying. If you're going to buy it from someone,
I would
read the label.
Definitely read the label.
Okay.
And
then pay attention when you buy it. Take a picture of it to see the color of it, to see how dark it compares if you're going to grow it later.
that is really keen advice there.
All right.
Yep. There are ways that you can test like essentially the concentration density of it as you're growing it.
Can you take like a TDS meter and go, holy shit, that's nasty?
Well, you wouldn't get a good
right?
indication of the density of the culture. Your TDS meter is going to read the same when you first start it as when you have a relatively dense culture. Honestly, I don't think a TDS meter is actually going to pick up much on that.
A guy can dream.
Is thickness and color? Thickness
Do you
and color?
taste it?
Yep.
Can you take a swig and be like, shit, that's ripe?
You can, but you're going to have a salty surprise that you won't like.
Will you shit your pants?
If you drink enough of it.
You might shit the neighbor's fence too.
Don't drink this shit, guys. It's a joke.
No,
it's a fucking joke.
No, not for human consumption.
Not for human consumption.
Yes.
But it works great as a suppository.
Yes.
Yeah, I guess. Could. An enema, maybe.
Don't do
Phytoplankton.
this. Don't do this.
Phytoplankton enema.
Sure, you just freeze a small bullet. Just freeze it, and then you can insert the bullet, clean you right out.
Holy shit, Dalton's not approving any of this right now.
I'm not a doctor, but I stayed at a Holiday Inn Express last night.
Not a recommended procedure. I mean, I heard of coffee enemas and beer enemas, and
This is where Dalton just goes, I'm just skipping this 10 minutes.
Right there. Always check the dosing that you're
so I can give you kind of a baseline there.
Yeah, please.
Just about everybody, myself included, is going to tell you to start with a dose of 1 milliliter of phytoplankton per gallon in your total system. So if you got a 100-gallon system, start with 100 milliliters.
All right, so that's where we start.
So follow the recipe.
So if
or for every 10 gallons. I'm sorry. I was like, well, that seems like too much. So it's for every 10 gallons.
So just to re-clarify,
Yep.
1 milliliter of the phytoplankton juice for every 10 gallons of water. Because I was about to rail your ass. I'm not even going to lie to you.
Yep.
If you guys want to be left alone, I can fucking go upstairs.
No. So when you
100-gallon tank, you'll want 10 milliliters to
Good.
start.
So when you dose this in the tank, how do you know that you've overdone it, and how do you know you've underdone it?
Because you're all sweaty.
You know you've overdone it when you start sweating.
Yeah.
No. I'll be honest, it's really difficult to overdo it. You'll get some green tinge to your water, but you're not going to see too many negative effects from a high dosage of phytoplankton in any system. Now, if you do that consistently, then you'll start getting a buildup of some organics. You'll start seeing some nutrient increases, and then you'll be feeding hair algae or some type of nuisance, Underdoing it, like if you're really trying to keep a robust population of copepods in there, I mean, you can visually see whether you're having a pretty good level of those in there.
So if you're seeing
there's so many factors involved.
If you're not seeing enough increase or concerned about a decrease of your microorganisms, if you're not seeing those small creatures gain off of any of this, then you know to maybe add just a slight bit more.
Yep.
But be careful, because then you want an explosion and you don't want green water.
Well, so I have a system that I do 10x that dosage. So I have a 100-gallon system that I do dose a liter every 2 days.
Sure.
So, but that has a ton of clams, has a ton of gorgonians, feather duster worms,
Sure.
all kinds of other macro life forms that are also feeding off of.
And the clams alone,
phytoplankton.
like if people don't understand, like I do a lot of freshwater clams. Clams are a natural filter. That is probably the one thing in that whole tank that you could have painted out as the biggest food factor of just sucking it down.
Yeah. So like you said, it's same within the marine system. Clams are filter feeders, and they will just filter, 100 times their vascular capacity a day. It's insane, the amount of water and then the amount of bioorganisms that they pull out of there. It's just crazy.
I'm going to ask a beginner's question.
Please.
Do I need to turn off the filtration when I put in after I dose?
There's a couple of different schools of thought on that. It depends on what type of filtration you're running. If you're running a skimmer, as a lot of marine systems do, that will pull phytoplankton out. Absolutely. So there's good recommendations to.
What about UV filtration?
UV filtration will absolutely kill it. It's a good idea to shut down your UV filtration for a short time after dosing it. Now, me personally, I don't shut off shit when I feed because I'll forget to turn it on.
That's the problem.
Right, exactly. So
That's why you're pouring out a 40 of malt liquor for your homies. That's why you're overdosing. You're just like it's like just pouring out for my boys.
No, so
like half of this is going in the UV sterilizer. I know.
But I don't run mechanical filtration in any of my systems. I don't run UV. So I'm literally just
What do you run?
I just run a skimmer. I just run a protein skimmer. That's the only filtration that I run.
Skimmer it.
Yeah, that's it.
You're my hero.
I'll run some activated carbon now and again.
You must have a lot of macroalgae.
All of my systems have a ton of macros.
You're my hero.
Yeah, I love the green stuff.
Back to the beginner thing, Jimmy. When I did my tank. Let's go with a little detail. I'm gonna do another.
Are we gonna talk about you again?
Me again. I got a 60-gallon tall. I want to do this whole thing low tech, and I'm impatient. I'm trying to get into this thing for doing it with no heat. Trying to do it with no mechanical filtration, just on air. And everybody's calling me crazy, but I really want to get that biological cycle rolling. So I actually introduce on purpose pieces of live rock. I know there's a ton of copepods. I go to my friends to get pieces on purpose that I know are just loaded with shit and sumps. I put it in there, and I know that they need to feed. I do that bad idea, right? You say, milliliter per 10 gallons. No, I'm pouring the full 40 for my homies out in the thing, and I'm doing this every day until I see any type of results of explosions because I'm trying to get this thing pumping. So I finally get it going, and then I cut it off. And I'm like, okay, now I know I got an explosion starting to happen. I'm not going to feed him for a few weeks. I'll just see where this rounds off to. And I got lucky. It exploded. My water didn't go green. And I just let it sit. Now I'm sitting there like, well, what am I supposed to dose? So I just took a red Solo cup. And I went to a red Solo cup every day. And apparently that was too much. So a red Solo cup was not the measurement that you needed because immediately
the 16-ounce red Solo cup.
Well,
or the 20-ounce.
I had this lovely country time lemonade container full of phytoplankton, and then suddenly my aquarium matched its color.
Toby Keith would be so proud of you right now if he was alive.
But to reward myself with the abounding life in the tank, after I got the UV filter temporarily put in there to sterilize it out, I got myself a, pink dragon goby? Mandarin something goby?
You're looking at us like...
I'm trying to remember what the fuck it is.
He's looking at us like we know.
Dragonette.
Mandarin dragonette. It was pink. It was bright. It was cooler than shit. And it just mowed down copepods like a lawnmower.
It was probably...
That's what they fucking eat.
It was great.
That's right.
At least he didn't say coolie loach at him. So.
Well, I mean, that's not a beginner fish for saltwater people. Like, if
No.
that is not an Ocellaris clown.
Now that it doesn't have any more copepods? Or
No, it did well.
Did you give it to somebody else?
No, it did well, and then when I got rid of the tank, it went away when the tank went away. But it lived a full, long life in that year's time.
Oh, I'm sure. I'm sure it was scarfing on all of them.
Well, there was two types of fish in the tank that was just obese. It was that dragonette, that pinky guy, and yeah, and a lawnmower blenny that I swear to God looked like Jimmy's swollen up cock. Like, it was just rounder than shit. It looked like a bouncy ball. It was literally just a circular ball.
Big ball.
No, it was just a little tiny chode that was just round and couldn't
They're
swim.
pigs. They'll just eat everything.
Yeah.
You must have caught me on a cold day. I don't know what you're talking about. You fucking slinky. Push you down the steps and watch you just fucking go backwards.
Also, that dragonette was not cheap, by the way.
Marine fish aren't.
They're not.
No.
I'm amazed that it actually lived, because even if you get them and they will eat copepods, a lot of times they hit them with cyanide and shit and they poison them. So yeah, they'll be alive and they'll eat, but they just wither away and starve to death. So I'm actually a little impressed that you've got it to live for more than a month or two.
Yeah, I got this from a particular wholesaler in Minnesota. It was there for a bit because no one wanted to buy them.
Because it's too much money.
No, because nobody carries a ton of copepods in that amount. And they have a very big tank for that. Because, I mean, I had 60 gallons of pure, the wall was crawling copepods, and that thing mowed it down.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
You don't need... You can get them on frozen.
What's that?
Oh, I was only told that you had to have them live. See, again, I'm not a salt guy. This was me getting into it. So I was told you could only have them live.
They're difficult to condition, but you can condition a lot of dragonets onto frozen food. And especially now, to Adam's point, they are captive bred in large quantities. All your green, blue, your ruby red dragonets, your psychedelic dragonets, they're all captive bred now. And so you've reduced that risk of cyanide exposure in their capture. And then in a lot of the breeding facilities, they're like immediately weaned onto nano pellets and other processed foods, and then they really can get conditioned onto frozen food, or even pellets these days.
I was going to say,
readily.
Bones just put in the chat that I've seen him take pellets, and I'm like, there was no feeding that fish because I had so many copepods. So
I didn't know you had fish in that tank until one day it was solid green at the end on all three sides, and then one of the lawnmower blendies just kind of made a small little quarter-size hole, and you kind of look in there with your eye and see him in there, and you're like, hey.
It was just this giant round ball giving you the middle fin. Giving you, the middle fin.
The middle fin.
Yeah.
F you, Jake.
Giving you the middle fin. I think we got at least an idea how you can get started on dosing your tank with some phytoplankton. Now, you talked about other plankton. So can I go to the store and you talk about zooplankton? What other planktons do we need to be concerned about? Are there different colors? Do I have to match them? Something like a, Captain Planet ring?
like granimals?
Shit.
Do you remember granimals, people?
Hold on. We went an hour and 10 minutes so far just learning about phytoplankton. Now you're going to tell me there's other plankton I got to learn about? God damn, I'm exhausted.
So what granimals are for you
granimals?
Young punks listening.
I feel like you got grandchildren.
No, I do. So granimals, when I was growing up in the 80s, 1980s, fuckers, not 1880s.
Oh, this is your children. Got it.
No, me. Fuck you. Fuck you. Fuck you. That's for everybody right there.
That's the middle fin right there.
That was it.
That's a middle fin.
What were we talking about now? Oh, so granimals. So it just took all the So you'd buy a pair of pants, and it would have like a lion on it on the back pocket, and then your shirt had a lion on the tag, and so you smashed up the two tags, and you knew you matched. What? Granimals.
I thought Granimals was a food.
No, Granimals was a clothing line. God, keep up, would you?
Hold on. Then what the shit is the yogurt my kid eats?
What?
That's
Danimals.
Danimals. Granimals. This is, wow. I swear to God I haven't had any weed. Whew. All right.
Anyway, it made it much easier for dressing yourself if you're stoned.
I did.
When you're 8 years old, oh my God, when you're all messed up.
Oz is just about to lay an egg. You gotta
Does
see
this match? No, you've got your lion on with your leopard. Dumbass.
That's how you learn to match your clothes.
Oh, granimals.
You two, you know what? I'm going to leave tonight, and you two are about 2 o'clock in the morning going, we got to look up granimals because I think he's full of shit.
I remember this shit. I grew up in the 80s.
See?
I mean, I might not look it, but I'm 43.
The type of stuff that we're into is like Teddy Fresh.
Teddy Fresh.
Yeah, right here. Check this shit out. Like,
It's the same thing that they stole.
It's Teddy Fresh.
From granimals. No, look up granimals.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes, so there are all kinds of different plankton.
Yeah, back to that.
Yeah. Holy shit.
Dalton's going to kill us.
Even as far as like phytoplankton's concerned, there's a bunch of different varieties out there. So if you go and you get one of the blends that's out there, and you start trying to culture that.
Is it a hybrid?
Yeah.
Is it all relatively same instructions?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, thank God.
Follow the damn instructions, Robbie.
Thank God. So still fertilizer, still light, still aeration, still circular container.
Yep. Okay. Basically,
it's just different ganja.
It's just, exactly. You get different strains, and they're going to have a different high, if you will.
So if I go to a salt store, like a saltwater local fish store, I can go in there and be like, they'll have 8 flavors of planktons?
I doubt
Likely not. So what a lot of producers, myself included, do is sell a blended product.
It's just your recipe, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, my special sauce.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, we're supposed to. Oh, yeah.
I'm so glad this isn't on camera. Anyways,
It's going to get
your
weird
special
tonight.
sauce.
Yeah. So
So what's in your sauce? Or do you want to? That's a secret. That's a secret policy. That
Why do
you're
you
not allowed
both
to
have
talk
your hands
about
in
it.
your pockets when you're talking about your secret sauce?
Hand check.
All right.
Jesus Cripes.
I'm gonna look this way. You look that way. Now we can do this podcast.
You two want to be left alone?
no, there'll be time for that. I'm
So,
saving
anyways,
that.
I'm gonna get plankton from a store,
Yep,
and it's gonna be
so-
a blend.
Yep. Like it's almost.
So they'll say it's phytoplankton, but it might have zooplankton, aplankton,
No,
B-plankton,
it'll be a
Q-plankton.
blend of phytoplankton. It'll be a bottle of green water, but it's going to maybe have 2 to 5 to 6 different types of phytoplankton in there, and they're all going to have different nutritional profiles.
Sure.
They will outcompete each other in an enclosed culture. So if you want a variety of 4 different types, you have to have different cultures for all 4 of those types. If you just buy that jug of 6 different types.
So my
and
jug,
put it into a jar.
that's what happened. My jug lost the war after a year sitting in the jar, and I
So
only
what
have
you-
one type left.
You got it.
That's why I had to change out the shit, Jimmy.
Yeah. So they'll outcompete for the nutrients because some of them can swim a little bit better. Some of them can absorb things.
All
a
right,
little
Some of them
bit
are
better.
stronger swimmers,
Oz.
Robbie.
Yeah.
Oz, tell me, I know we can't get into your secret sauce, but how many different cultures of planktons do you have on your farm?
I produce 3 different varieties right now. Well, okay, so that's a lie. I had to shut. I
I like how he calls himself out right away.
I shut the lab down for a hot minute as I'm doing a little bit of an expansion, adding some updated equipment and
Hey.
cleaning up some of the
When do I get to come over?
sanitizing protocols. Whenever. Anytime you're in Duluth, man.
I'll make the trip.
Come on
You
over.
came down here.
Yeah. Oh, dude. Yeah, you owe me a visit. But no, we're gonna get that cranking back up again. I'm hoping to be producing 6 different varieties within the next year consistently, because you have different profiles of pigments that are in them, different profiles of your fatty acids, different profiles of your lipids and cholesterols that are in them.
Holy
and
shit.
Having a variety is the spice of life for just about everybody.
So
you know?
basically, what you want to do is, if you see your buddy at a fish swamp or a fish club, or you're hanging out with your buddy, and he's got a culture, you got a culture, you should, swap a little
spit.
bit. Swap spit.
Maybe. I mean, if you're culturing different stuff.
Yeah.
That,
Clearly.
yeah, definitely. And so having a variety of phytoplankton is good for your aquarium. It's good for if you're culturing copepods as well, which is, to be honest, like that's the reason a lot of people want to culture phytoplankton is to also culture copepods.
That's the next episode.
Yeah.
Right there.
Zooplankton?
Copepods.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's a whole episode in itself there.
For sure.
But yeah, the phytoplankton, there's a lot of different varieties out there, and myself and other people will sell monocultures where it's just the one single strain.
How do you test that? You got to put it in a microscope,
Yep.
and then just see who is the Spartan winning colony.
Yeah, you should be like, if you have a scope and you're getting a new inoculant or a new batch in from somewhere, throw it under there, take a look. You should be able to see. There's different slides that you can get that you can use to count the cell density in a given sample as well. So if you're really looking to see like, oh, what is the culture density here, you can do it with a microscope and a particular slide. And then there's also Secchi sticks or Secchi devices that allow you just through turbidity to kind of gauge how thick the culture is, and that'll give you a relative culture density of whether you got more or less than you did last time you checked. It doesn't tell you the exact cell count or anything, but it gives you a good visual representation.
Question here from the audience. You did say that when you have different types of plankton, generally one will win, generally speaking. Are there types of planktons that can coexist in that jar long term?
I don't know of any.
No. So it's
No.
no matter what, you're going to find out. You're basically putting them into the battle zone,
Yeah.
and someone will reign supreme.
Yep.
Thunderdome.
Yeah.
You are
it is.
thunderdoming
It's
your
a thunderdome.
your planktons. All right.
It's highly unlikely. I mean, I shouldn't say no, but
None that you know of.
none that I know of, and from what I know, it seems highly unlikely. But maybe that's the code to crack, because there's literally hundreds of different species of phytoplankton.
Yeah, and maybe some undiscovered stuff we don't know about.
Well,
Now, there's not a lot of guy in petri dishes trying to, crack the code on different planktons,
I saw Men in Black.
unless it's I was about to use that joke or SpongeBob SquarePants.
Yep. It's all Men in Black. Shit happens.
Oh, there's a way. I do believe it. But no, there's such a variety of phytoplankton that I find it hard to believe that there wouldn't be. Maybe that's the challenge, is to find that. You know, a lot of what we call phytoplankton is they're diatoms, they're dinoflagellates, they're different types of organisms. They're not even technically algae or plants most of the time.
So where do rotifers fit in the? Am I pronouncing that correctly? Rotifers.
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 Yep. Rotifers.
Where does that fit in the cycle of life?
So rotifers are going to be one of those primary consumers, the first organisms that eat the phytoplankton. So then they are going to bioaccumulate all of the good shit in the phyto. So they're going to be that first food that a lot of larval fish are going to eat, a lot of different coral with really small polyps and things.
So we have the base of phytoplankton.
Yeah.
We have the rotifers, which is the first bites. Then we have the microcrustaceans and copepods. And then we go into a gamut of things. Everything all the way up to our fish.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. It's a food web, man. It's amazing.
We need to have podcast number 2 on copepods, because I have many questions we get emailed in about copepods being like the most difficult thing for even experienced reefers in the tank, and I'd love to get into that at another time.
Oh yeah, absolutely. There's all kinds of cool ways to get really vibrant copepod cultures, but same with like the phytoplankton. It takes a certain level of regimented consistency and sterilization protocols and things like that. And that's where most people end up failing, is just biosecurity. You'll get contamination between different samples. Like if you're growing rotifers, you better keep those 15 feet away from any of your plankton cultures, and you better use 100% different tools and equipment for those two systems, or you're going to wipe out your plankton, your phytoplankton.
But you'll have a lot of rotifers.
Right, yeah.
Suddenly you'll have a lot.
I learned that one the hard way. But thankfully at that time, there were people that were like starting to breed a lot of clownfish,
it just worked
cardinal
out for you.
fish, and they were looking for rotifers. So like, okay, yeah, I got you for the next 2 months. Let's do it.
I'm your guy.
Belly up to the bar.
Adam, you've been particularly quiet. You got any details for us?
No, I'm just listening and taking notes.
He's fact checking all this shit.
He is right now.
Good, yeah.
He's fact checking
all of my BS.
He's just going bullshit.
Nah, right now he's trying to figure out how big of a vat he can make of this green nasty water in his basement.
Well,
I've already got that figured out.
Ta-da. Called it.
The only thing I'm wondering, so for saltwater people, what is that breed captive saltwater fish? What is the main culture they use, or is that kind of there's like 2 or 3 main hatcheries? There's one in Hawaii, there's one in Tennessee. What is the main green water culture they use, or do they both use the same one, or you don't know?
A lot of those are the primary first food of most marine larval fish is going to be like a microorganism and not phytoplankton. So what they're feeding is a lot of times is rotifers is going to be that first, or honestly brine shrimp, nauplii. Like the juvenile brine shrimp are still used in a lot of marine ornamental fish aquaculture, but rotifers are going to be one of the primary first foods for a lot of marine larval fish. These farms are either producing rotifers and phytoplankton in-house typically, so they're producing a lot of it themselves. They probably have a couple, 3, 4 cultures and are producing the phytoplankton, and then they've got some cultures of the rotifers as well, and maybe they're doing some brine shrimp to get them going, and then some various levels of copepods mixed in there. Yeah. I thought there was one other.
Because I thought with them breeding tangs, they had to start doing some of the tangs on the phytoplankton level. At the phytoplankton level,
perhaps maybe some of the more herbivorous fish, and maybe there are particularly larger sized phytoplankton that are more of a ideal diet for some of the larval marine fish. I guess I don't have a good answer for that one.
Now, how often do you?
You need to be an expert in the fish more than you would the phytoplankton, I feel like.
Yeah, probably.
How often are you dosing? What would the average person be dosing? How often would they be feeding?
I go every other day. A lot of people will suggest every day, but I go every other day. It kind of started out as laziness, or it was hard. I just felt like an ass for not doing it every day because I was supposed to do it every day. So then it's like, well, I'll do it every other day, and sometimes maybe it's every third day. And
don't you worry about getting too many like phosphates and other things affecting the tank? Like it's just going to spike, and you gotta balance it out. Give them a not starvation period, but a time where they're having to forage
in the tank. You're saying? Yeah, absolutely.
Because freshwater, I don't tell any human for an adult fish to ever feed anything past every other day. If you're growing out fish, I get it. You're gonna feed sometimes 6 times a day, but an adult fish you're trying to keep going that isn't breeding, every other day is the stable for fresh.
The thing with the phytoplankton, the recommended way to dose it is in some live state. Ideally, it's not a direct source of organic material in and of itself the second you add it to the water.
Sure.
Unlike a lot of other food, whether it's frozen or processed, it's going to have some level of metabolic activity in the
It's a delayed
tank.
reaction. You're feeding the food.
Right. The theory is that by the time, because your tank is not ideal breeding conditions for this phytoplankton, but it will live for a long enough time before it gets either filtered out by your filtration or consumed by suspension or filter feeders.
Right.
If you happen to have a batch of phytoplankton that's gone bad and you end up dosing that to your aquarium, you could very well be adding direct ammonia sources. It could be...
Oh, so how do you know if it's bad? Does it still look green, or is it going to go brown in the container?
A bit of both. It's going to lose its color, and you're going to get...
Also, Jimmy's freaking out. There's a spider behind your head, and he's losing his mind.
How big is it? Oh, that's a good one.
Oh, nice smack. Continue.
Not into spiders, huh?
Not at all.
Huh.
Anyways,
That serve a purpose.
how do you define dead algae, or excuse me, phytoplankton?
Coloration is going to be your first clue. Not all phytoplankton is green. Some of it is inherently kind of brown to red to yellow to green. So you have a spectrum of colors depending upon the variety and what pigmentation they're supposed to have.
Sure.
So as long as you know what it's supposed to look like, then.
But
keep
I
an
mean,
eye
I
on
don't.
that.
What if it gets real dark and I just man, that's really concentrated?
Well, really dark and concentrated is a good thing. Like you want the
So
color
if I
to
get that dark
get
and
in there.
concentrated, what will it turn if it's dark and concentrated and that dies? It will go light colored all of a sudden?
Yep, depending upon why it's dying
Sure.
and how fast it's dying. If it's dying because of lack of environmental conditions, whether it's flow
Jimmy peed in
or
it.
light, or your asshole friends peed in it
Sure.
or something.
Yeah.
I'm going to do it.
A lot of times you will see just a decrease in the color because it's either falling out of suspension or it's not producing or something like that. Now, if you just see a decrease in color, it's not necessarily dead. You can maybe make some corrections there. Increase the flow. Maybe it needs some more nutrients. Maybe the light isn't intense enough. But if it starts changing color, then you know that you have actually some die-off and not a lack of productivity.
But the point is it won't go from light to dark. It'll go dark to light most of the time.
If
it dies.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
It's not gonna. Yeah.
So if I have a nice dark green, I got a nice backing that I got a good colony, and I'm convinced that that's a good product I got going on.
So-
And smell it.
So smell's the other thing too, which is also a very subjective thing.
Yeah, but you get the idea. If you're in there feeding that stuff every day, you're solo cupping like I was, you know what it smells like.
Yeah, and
And then
you'll see
suddenly it smells like, ooh,
Ass.
what the hell happened here?
Yeah.
Jimmy, Jesus.
So
Whew.
absolutely, it's pretty recognizable by smell when a culture is turning or has turned. They all have a limiting factor
Sure.
in the culture. They're going to use up the nutrients that you provided for them. They're going to have a particular rate of reproduction, and so that's going to lag off as they use up all the nutrients. So when you harvest a particular amount, if you want to use a continuous culture method, then you just replace that volume that you harvested and dilute that culture again with a new nutrient solution in your growth medium.
Sure.
How many cultures do you keep going at one time? You have a backup
For
culture?
me, oh yeah, redundancy is huge.
Mm-hmm.
Redundancy is huge. I try and keep 3 cultures of every variety that I want to produce going at any one time. And
Now-
even though they're in the same space, I've had one right next to the other crash out for no real apparent reason.
I treat my live cultures for fresh and some of my fish the same, some of the same ways. Is I pawn them off to my homies. I'm like, hey, you want some free live cultures? cultures? I was like, yeah, I do. That'd be great. Good. When mine die, I'm gonna give you a call, and then you're gonna share. Oh, that's all I would need for some free live cultures. Absolutely. Great. Let's get this rolling. And then I have a couple backup plans with my homies. You know, I do that some of my rare fish. Got some cichlids that I can't get back, some lemias. I got some of those pawned out to my friends because I know that if my cultures take a crap, that's what happens. I got blue-eyed, lemon, bristlenose, longfin plecos, and I got them from a buddy because he treated me like that. He farms them. He has all kinds of them. He had a terrible thing go through his fish room. Lost all of them. Came back. I gave him pairs.
Nice. So you had broodstock for him.
I had broodstock for him.
That's awesome.
Yep.
Yeah, you never know if you're going to have a power outage
Never
somewhere.
know what's happening.
Yeah.
You know?
In the marine aquarium craft, there's a whole sentiment of frag it forward with coral, where just like that, you've got a prize coral specimen. As soon as it's big enough to bust a frag off, give it to your buddy with a good tank, and then when your tank shits the bed, you can hopefully get that thing back.
Maybe that's what that guy said to me the other day, but I'm pretty sure it wasn't to do with saltwater. I think it was because of my colored clothing.
Were you not wearing your granimals or what?
Yeah.
Oh, no, it wasn't frag, was it? Never mind. Different word. All right.
Wow, I walked into that one. That hurt.
Frag, coral frag.
Thank you.
We have a question from the audience.
Let's read it here.
Back on topic.
Let's find it back here.
It's on topic.
Does depleting and topping off the culture help grow it out at all?
Yeah, it has to get harvested at some point.
Like, do you dump let's pretend it's my jar again. Let's just explain this a little clearer because I think I know where he's going with this. If I have a jar and I've been running it for 9 months and it's starting to funk out, do I drain that bitch down to 5% and then fill it up all with just the fresh, not fresh water, but new water?
Yes, absolutely.
And then that would suddenly reinvigorate the jar.
Now you're getting the culturing method.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Eh?
Yep. So yes to the Forrest Gump of fish keeping there. that is exactly what you need to be doing. Like what Rob's explained earlier. Like if you just harvest them out and then you just put tank water in there, are you adding fertilizer then to what you topped off?
I don't want to talk about it.
No. Okay. So that's the thing is you have to replenish the food source with whatever you.
Now we know why
take
the circle
out.
of life.
Real story?
Yeah.
I would only add fertilizer anytime that the color wasn't strong enough.
Huh?
I would literally I would treat it like Kool-Aid because that's all I know. I don't know this. This was not something that someone taught me.
Sure.
It's all self-learned.
Yeah.
So I'd literally just see a jar in a Kool-Aid container and I treat it like Kool-Aid. That Kool-Aid isn't strong enough. Let's
We
add
need some
another
more
packet.
powder in there.
Yeah, let's add another 30-cent packet from the grocery store.
There you go, Jim Jones.
For sure.
Too soon?
Google that if you want to be depressed later.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah. All right.
So yeah, you have to replace the culture media, and then you'll go through a lag phase where you're not going to see.
You said lag.
Lag.
Okay.
Lag.
Lag.
Thank you.
We're going to get so much information.
Thank you.
We said retard
Quit
one
hazing
time.
the guest. He came in person for
You'll go
crying
through
out
the
loud.
lag phase where you won't see any kind of growth, and it'll just barely be ticking, and then it will.
All right, I did get a message. I did get a message on my phone that I've been ignoring.
Was it cease and assist or what?
No, this is a real message. If someone takes a dead fish, whether it's a small damselfish or a little goldfish, and they blend it up in a blender and they put it in that container, will that be fertilizer enough for phytoplankton in a pinch?
What is this, the Bassomatic from Saturday Night
No,
Live?
I didn't want to ask it.
So I don't know.
Could we do research in the next podcast you come on when you come up?
We'll
to talk
supply
about
the dead
copepods?
fish.
You're gonna try it.
Maybe I'll try and get a hold of some fish emulsions and make a tea and see if there are some other type of.
I would just Google it myself.
He said, and then he added in details of if you had to strain it or think outside the box here to try to get a pinch for fertilizer when he can't was waiting for shipping.
I have a feeling you'd get more decomposition than fertilization out of something like that. But
you haven't tried it.
I have not tried it, so I do not know.
How about we lab this out together?
I think we can.
I would just buy the $20 thing.
Should we
use that?
Should we get a jar and try it out?
Same.
I bet you it smells really delicious.
Does it?
I bet it just smells delicious.
Oh, some of that fish-based fertilizer for plants. It's just disgusting smelling, but it's good-ass fertilizer. So if you made a tea, I don't know. I mean,
put it
maybe
in your
could
garage
work.
if you want to try the skids.
When it's 90 degrees, yeah. Make sure.
We're not endorsing blending fish.
No, dead fish. This is already dead.
Take the bats.
Okay,
the whole bats.
We've talked about bleaching octopus. We've talked about shitting in jars. We've talked about all sorts of crazy shit. We're not blending fish, okay?
This
We're not doing it.
brought to you by the
Hold on.
Bassomatic.
Hold on.
Remember the Bassomatic?
Yeah, I do remember the Bassomatic.
Bassomatic.
So,
My Vitamix now.
I forgot that now we have an emoji of father fish in our Discord. Someone just posted a big fat emoji of father fish. So I don't know. Again, you're not part of the freshwater community. Father fish is a famous YouTuber. God bless his soul. This guy is a legend. He's for the advanced freshwater aquarium hobby guy. He's the don't touch it, don't do water changes guy. And he believes that we should take the Indian Native American method of like taking a fish and planting it in our soil, a dead fish, and then putting your corn kernel in there to grow our plants. But he thinks we should do this in our aquarium hobby. So of course, that's what they posted as father fish when I said blend a fish and make it for fertilizer.
Happy Thanksgiving, everyone.
Well, I'll tell you what, in marine systems, when a fish dies, if it's a healthy tank, you don't even notice it.
That's the same with fresh. Yeah, same with fresh.
Take some fava beans.
I love this guy, but this guy's he's a bit made fun of because he's not for a beginner hobbyist because they take it the wrong way.
Who's that?
The father fish. So we'll see like beginner hobbyists take that clown puke gravel that you get from Walmart, you know, multicolored stuff. There's nothing beneficial in it. They don't have a single plant in the tank, and then they'll just take a dead fish and put it in their gravel because they're not understanding his message. It's just nope, you're not getting it, guys.
Clarice.
You're making stew, is what you're doing.
Oh my gosh.
He's a treat. This is not making fun of father fish. I love him to death. I hope someday I get to talk to them on the podcast.
Have you tried?
After our beta podcast.
Oh, he's willing. I've talked to his daughters, and he's willing to come on the podcast. But he's like, he wakes up at like 4 a.m. and then goes to bed at 2. You know, it's just.
We'll take a day off work if you can make that work. The knowledge that old man will give us is ridiculous.
If you're pert near 90, trying to make time for someone is impossible.
Or if he even cares.
What'd you say?
Does he still have a store down in Venice, Florida?
I
know he did.
I don't know.
A while. I might have to go down there. It's about an hour away.
Hey, I'm in.
Check it out.
I'm a huge fan. Like, honestly.
Go tell him he can be on the podcast for free.
I'm a huge fan. He's just not for beginner aquarists.
I'll have to look into father fish.
I'm dead serious. You're gonna find the coolest shit you've ever seen.
You should look into the Bassomatic.
Oh,
yeah. Okay. What was that? Was that a Chappelle show bit or
no? It's
Saturday Night Live.
Saturday Night Live. Dan
Aykroyd. Huh?
I remember it was one of those stand-up
He'd take a fresh fish and put it in the blender and just go, and it would just turn.
Take the bass, the entire bass. That's right,
the entire bass. That's the best thing ever. And then he'd always pour it into a glass like he's gonna drink it. You know.
He did.
Yeah, I think he did once.
All right. Well, I think we've milked about enough out of this. Unless Adam, you got any more questions?
No, I'm good.
Jimothy?
I had something strange happen last night, and I just wanted to share it with you because it's still kind of disturbing.
Hold that. Did we miss anything glaring on our topics this evening?
No, I mean, we kind of covered the bases. We kind of talked about the purpose of phytoplankton, kind of its position in the food web, some basics about the methodology and setup, the usage. Seems like we got through most of the basics.
Well, if you guys got questions, you could go on our Discord. It's in the link. You can go to thereeflab.net. There's contact information for Reefer Oz right on his website. He has email, and if you're daring enough, his telephone number directly on there because he's dumb. And so call him, text him, sext him, whatever you need to do.
Yeah, let's sext me, please.
$1.99 per question.
He does require full tank shots for answers, though.
Full tank. Show me your tanks.
Show me your tanks.
Show me your tanks.
For sure. So certainly check it out, and please get him to send you some delicious plankton.
Yeah, hit me up.
Yep, and it was a joke, guys. Please don't ingest or insert any green liquid into your orifices.
Unless you want to be known as a pussy.
Now, Jimmy, you had one more note that you wanted to share with the podcast. I do too, now that we're at the end, by the way.
So this happened to me the other night, and I just wanted to share it because it's just odd. And so we went out the other night, and we had dinner, and we had drinks, and my spouse had more drinks than I had. And so I drive home. She goes, I'm going to bed. I'm hammered. I said, okay. And anyway, she's laying there, and you know how you're about ready to fall asleep, and your wife will say something stupid to you? She goes, so anyway, I thought I heard her snoring.
Okay.
And out of nowhere, she goes, hey! I go, what? You want to know how clams reproduce? I go, what? You want to know what I learned today? I go, what? She goes, I learned how clams reproduce. I go, how do clams reproduce? She goes, broadcast spawning. Mic drop, night. I'm like, what the hell is all this about when I'm just falling asleep? Broadcast spawning, mic drop, good night.
She's not wrong.
There's a couple mic drops moments that we've had between each other, and I think that's a new one we got to make fun of Jen for. The one that you guys make fun of me for is spoiler alert mashed potatoes.
Oh God, Robbie made me watch this god awful Dr. Pimple
No,
Popper.
you wouldn't watch it. So we're sitting in my living room.
You tricked me into it, you dickhead.
Yeah, okay, you're sitting in my living room like, you got to see the show, Jimmy, if you've never seen it. I'm like, what do you mean? This is the show. She's a dermatologist, and she helps these poor people. And he's like, what the f*** are you talking about? I pull it up on the television, and we're sitting there, and this episode of Dr. Pimple Popper comes up, and this person that has the only describable as like a watermelon embedded into their neck and shoulder.
A boil.
It's a
the
giant,
size of a softball.
It's the size of like a watermelon on their neck and shoulder. And I'm like, look at that thing, Jimmy. And he immediately stands up. He's like, hell no.
I'm about ready to go.
Hell, because she's holding a scalpel ready to pop that bitch open, you know. And I'm like, Jimmy, you can't miss this. And he's just running for the door. And I'm like, Jimmy, no. He's like, Robbie, this is disgusting. I'm not gonna watch this. I'm like, spoiler alert. There's mashed potatoes in it. And at that moment, she takes the scalpel and it sprays her.
Yeah.
With what looks to be garlic mashed potatoes. Yep. And then he didn't come over for 2 weeks to my house.
I'm doing that tonight to my wife when I'm sleeping. Just before she falls asleep tonight, I'm just going to go, hey, she goes, what? Spoiler alert, mashed potatoes. Night, mic drop.
Mic drop.
I got one more before we leave. So you listened to the dolphin episode. And I played you the Patreon content. If you guys haven't listened to it, you can subscribe on Discord for $2.99, or you can subscribe on Patreon, I think, for $5 a month.
I ain't paying $5.
To Discord is much cheaper, and then you can get our exclusive content. We did a podcast talking about conspiracies. One episode, I think it was like episode 50 on our podcast. And dolphin jokes have been going around on Discord for a long time since then. Guys, it's been great.
My granddaughter called me the other day, at 2.5 years old. She goes, hey, it's Shark Week. I go, yeah, Indy, I know it's Shark Week. And she goes, do you know how much it costs to swim with the sharks? And I go, no. She goes, arm and a leg.
There you go.
I thought that was pretty funny.
That's good.
From a 2.5-year-old.
That's solid.
All right, on that note, the rest of this podcast will be for Patreon only, Discord supporters only. So thank you, and till the next episode. Thanks, guys, for listening to the podcast. Please go to your favorite place where podcasts are found, whether it be Spotify, iTunes, Stitcher, wherever they can be found. Like, subscribe, and make sure you get push notifications directly to your phone so you don't miss great content like this. And it's just kind of fun watching a couple crabs wrestle or starfish on there. It's a great ambiance when you're taking a shit.
I didn't get a chance to take a shit yet, but I am excited for my morning poo.
That nice, near thick green water.
Everything is just crawling with bacteria and microbes of some sort.
Well, this is the new Viagra, Jimmy.
It might even cure, that tilapia herpes thing. What's that smell?
Please don't eat, ingest, or insert any green liquid into your orifices.